Chapter 1, Introduction. The Hollywood power struggle. Hollywood has always been a battlefield of egos, creativity, and control. Directors, producers, and actors all have their roles to play. And when someone oversteps, it disrupts the entire filmmaking process. The controversy surrounding Blake Lively's involvement in It Ends With Us is a textbook case of an actress overreaching beyond her position, challenging the authority of the film's director, and igniting a legal and public relations war that has since spiraled into a $400 million lawsuit. This report breaks down everything from Lively's initial casting to the power struggle that followed, the lawsuit that shocked the industry, and the backlash that has left her career in jeopardy. But before diving into the intricate details, it's crucial to understand why this situation is so significant. Understanding roles in film production. Filming is a collaborative effort where each individual has a designated job: director, the visionary, responsible for the film's storytelling, cinematography, and overall execution; producer, the business mind, ensuring financing, logistics, and production run smoothly; screenwriter, the writer of the story, responsible for crafting the script; actor, actress, the performer, responsible for bringing characters to life within the boundaries of the director's vision. When an actor steps beyond their role and starts interfering with the responsibilities of others, especially the director, it disrupts the chain of command. While some elite actors may gain influence after decades in the industry, the majority understand that ultimate creative control is reserved for those who are hired to have it. The core controversy: Lively versus Baldoni. The controversy surrounding It Ends With Us began when Blake Lively, an actress with no official production or directing role in the film, reportedly attempted to exert control over key creative decisions. Sources from the production claim that she frequently challenged the film's director, Justin Baldoni, on script changes, visual direction, and even casting choices, actions that would typically be considered overstepping boundaries for someone in her position. This wasn't a case of minor suggestions for friendly collaboration. Instead, reports indicate that Lively was forceful in her attempts to reshape the film according to her vision, clashing with Baldoni's authority and creating tension on set. What started as creative disagreements escalated into something much larger, eventually leading to a legal battle that would expose Hollywood's complex power dynamics. Why this situation is different: actors expressing opinions isn't new. Many seasoned actors contribute ideas on set. However, there's a fine line between offering input and attempting to take control. Some of the greatest actors in history, Denzel Washington, Meryl Streep, Robert De Niro, have immense respect for directors and understand that their job is to perform, not dictate. Even actors with significant power in Hollywood, like Leonardo DiCaprio or Tom Cruise, typically operate within a structured system when making creative suggestions. What makes Lively's situation stand out is the level of alleged interference. It's one thing to request small changes to dialogue or a scene's tone, but trying to dictate major creative decisions is another. If the reports are accurate, Lively wasn't just giving input, she was trying to redefine the film's direction in ways that weren't her responsibility. The lawsuit and the industry shockwave tension between Lively and Baldoni didn't just stay behind the scenes. It escalated into a full-blown industry scandal when Baldoni and his team filed a $400 million lawsuit, accusing Lively and her husband, Ryan Reynolds, of attempting to sabotage the production. The lawsuit alleges that Lively's interference went beyond creative disputes, claiming that she and her team engaged in tactics that caused financial and reputational damage to the film and its creator. The lawsuit stunned Hollywood. While actors have clashed with directors before, rarely has it led to such extreme legal action. The scale of the lawsuit indicates that Baldoni and his team see this as more than just an artistic disagreement. It's a direct challenge to the hierarchy of filmmaking itself. Why this report matters: this deep dive will uncover every crucial detail of this controversy, leaving no room for ambiguity. From how it started to the current fallout, we will analyze what specific actions Blake Lively took that crossed the line, how Justin Baldoni and the production team responded, the impact of Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift in this situation, the legal battle and how it could affect Hollywood's handling of creative disputes, the public's reaction, how fans and critics are responding. At the core of this issue is a simple truth: every role in filmmaking has its place, and when an actor tries to take control of a director's vision, it creates chaos. By the end of this report, it will be clear that Lively's overreach was not just a small misstep, it was a fundamental disruption of the filmmaking process. With the stage set, the next chapter will explore how Blake Lively rose to Hollywood's stardom and whether signs of this controlling behavior existed long before It Ends With Us. Chapter 2, Blake Lively's career. and the path to power struggles. Blake Lively's rise in Hollywood was nothing short of impressive. From her breakout role in Gossip Girl to her transition to serious film projects, she built a name for herself as both a talented actress and a fashion icon. However, her ambition has often extended beyond acting, showing an increasing desire for creative control in her projects. While this drive is not inherently wrong, It Ends With Us became the moment where her aspiration clashed with the established power structure of Hollywood. This chapter explores Lively's journey, how she went from an actress to a creative force, and how her growing influence may have contributed to her overstepping boundaries on set. From teen star to Hollywood player, Blake Lively first gained widespread recognition in 2005 with The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, but it was Gossip Girl 2007 to 2012 that catapulted her into stardom. Playing Serena Vender Woodson, Lively became the face of luxury, high fashion, and youthful glamour. The role established her celebrity status, but it also typecast her in a specific image, something she fought to break away from as her career progressed. After Gossip Girl, Lively strategically chose film roles to prove she was more than just a TV actress. The Town 2010, a gritty crime drama directed by Ben Affleck, her performance was praised, showing she could handle serious material. Savages 2012, a thriller where she played a kidnapped girlfriend in a violent drug war. The Age of Adeline 2015, a romantic fantasy film that showcased her leading lady appeal. The Shallows 2016, a survival thriller where she carried the entire film, proving she could lead a box office hit on her own. A Simple Favor 2018, a psychological thriller that further solidified her range. While she never became an A-list powerhouse like Scarlett Johansson or Jennifer Lawrence, Lively carved out a respected career with a mix of critical and commercial successes. Lively's push for creative control. By the late 2010s, Lively was no longer just an actress, she was actively influencing the projects she worked on. She began seeking out roles where she had more say in the creative process. She publicly expressed frustration with how Gossip Girl handled her character's arc, suggesting she had her own vision for Serena Vender Woodson. She became more involved in the marketing and branding of her films, using her personal style and image to shape how her movies were perceived. In interviews, she hinted at wanting to direct or produce, citing her husband Ryan Reynolds' success as a producer on Deadpool as inspiration. One of the clearest signs of her desire for control came when she starred in The Rhythm Section 2020, a film she also executive produced. This marked a shift. She was no longer just an actress following a director's vision. She was stepping into a leadership role behind the scenes. However, The Rhythm Section flopped both critically and financially, raising questions about whether she was ready for that level of responsibility. The influence of Ryan Reynolds. Blake Lively's marriage to Ryan Reynolds played a significant role in shaping her career ambitions. Reynolds is one of Hollywood's most successful actor-producers, famously taking creative control of Deadpool and turning it into a billion-dollar franchise. He has since expanded his business empire, making strategic investments and gaining creative influence in multiple industries. It's likely that Lively saw Reynolds' success and wanted to follow a similar path. The difference, however, is that Reynolds took control of projects where he had the industry experience and leverage to do so. He built relationships with studios, financed projects, and worked closely with writers and directors. Lively, while respected, had not yet built that same level of trust with major studios. This is where the trouble started with It Ends With Us. And like Deadpool, where Reynolds had a clear stake in the project's development, It Ends With Us was not Lively's film to control. She was brought in as an actress, not as a producer, director, or writer, but by this point, it seemed that she had grown accustomed to having a bigger say in her work. Signs that she might overstep. Looking at Lively's past career, there were indications that she might clash with directors if she wasn't given enough creative input, publicly criticizing her past projects. Lively had voiced dissatisfaction with how Gossip Girl handled her character, suggesting she had her own creative vision. Attempting to expand her role behind the camera with The Rhythm Section, she was given creative influence but failed to turn it into a success, aligning herself with industry power players. With Ryan Reynolds as a husband and Taylor Swift as a close friend, she surrounded herself with people who had significant creative control in their respective fields. These factors contributed to a mindset where Lively may have felt entitled to more authority than her role on It Ends With Us actually allowed. The perfect storm. It Ends With Us. By the time Lively was cast in It Ends With Us, she was at a crossroads. She was eager to prove herself beyond just being an actress and fashion icon. She had taken on a role in a film that already had a director with a clear vision, but instead of sticking to her role, she allegedly started making demands that disrupted the production. This wasn't just an actress voicing concerns about her character, this was an actress trying to influence the direction of an entire film. A move that directly challenged the authority of director Justin Baldoni. While Lively may have thought she was being passionate and involved, the industry saw it differently. She was stepping out of line. Chapter 3. The making of It Ends With Us and the first signs of trouble with Blake Lively's increasing desire for creative influence in her projects. Her casting in It Ends With Us became the perfect storm for controversy. This chapter explores how the film came to be, the early signs of conflict, and how Lively's vision clashed with the established creative direction. The origins of It Ends With Us. It Ends With Us is based on Colleen Hoover's best-selling novel of the same name. The book, which deals with themes of love, domestic violence, and emotional resilience, resonated deeply with readers, making it one of the most popular romance novels of the decade. Given its success, a film adaptation was inevitable. Hollywood often struggles with book-to-movie adaptations, as authors have a distinct vision that doesn't always align with what works for cinema. In this case, Hoover was deeply involved in the adaptation process, ensuring that her story was translated faithfully to the screen. The film's production was led by Justin Baldoni, who was not only directing but also co-producing. Baldoni, known for his work on Jane the Virgin and his directorial debut 5 Feet Apart, had been passionate about bringing It Ends With Us to life. His approach focused on preserving the emotional weight of the novel while making it accessible to a mainstream audience. Blake Lively joins the project in early 2023. Blake Lively was announced as the lead actress, playing the role of Lily Bloom. While many fans were initially skeptical of the casting, citing that Lively was older than the character in the book, there was excitement about her ability to bring depth to the role. However, from the moment she signed on, reports suggest that Lively had strong opinions about the script, character development, and overall direction of the film. While it's normal for lead actors to provide input, Lively allegedly took things a step further, challenging key creative decisions and pushing for changes that extended beyond her role as an actress. First signs of conflict. The creative differences begin shortly after production began. Murmurs of behind-the-scenes tension started to surface. While Lively was initially enthusiastic about the project, sources suggest that she quickly became dissatisfied with certain aspects of the script and cinematography. 1. Clashes over the script. Lively reportedly wanted significant rewrites. 2. The dialogue. Believing that certain lines didn't align with how a modern woman would speak, she pushed for changes to her character's emotional arc, claiming it needed more nuance and complexity. Director Justin Baldoni, however, wanted to stay as true to the book as possible, leading to immediate friction. 2. Disagreements. On character development. Lively allegedly disagreed with how her character's relationship with Ryle Kincaid, played by Justin Baldoni, was portrayed. She pushed for additional scenes that would emphasize Lily's independence rather than her struggles with domestic violence, which some believe diluted the book's original message. This put her in direct conflict with Colleen Hoover, who had a specific vision for how the adaptation should reflect the book's themes. 3. Issues with cinematic style. Lively had strong opinions on the film's visual style, reportedly asking for changes in lighting, camera angles, and overall aesthetic. She allegedly wanted the film to have a more stylized, high-fashion feel reminiscent of her past work, while Baldoni aimed for a more grounded, emotional tone. These conflicts became a recurring theme, with Lively's involvement in creative decisions growing beyond what is typically expected of an actress. While actors often collaborate with directors to refine their performances, Lively's level of interference reportedly became disruptive. Behind-the-scenes fallout. Frustration among the crew as filming progressed. Tensions between Lively and the creative team escalated. Several reports from insiders suggested that crew members were growing frustrated with her overreach. Justin Baldoni was reportedly frustrated by Lively's insistence on rewriting scenes and restructuring her character's journey. While he was open to collaboration, he allegedly felt that Lively was undermining his authority as director. Colleen Hoover, the original author, was caught in the middle. She wanted the adaptation to be faithful to her novel, but Lively's influence threatened to alter key aspects of the story. Production delays started to occur. Sources suggest that Lively's continuous requests for changes caused scheduling issues, leading to frustration among the cast and crew. Despite these conflicts, Lively's star power made it difficult to challenge her directly. As a Hollywood veteran with a strong public image, many on set were hesitant to push back too hard. Fearing negative publicity, public perception, the first leaks, while the full extent of the behind-the-scenes drama wasn't public knowledge at the time, subtle signs began to emerge. Some industry insiders hinted at creative disagreements in anonymous reports, suggesting that production was experiencing turbulence. Social media discussions about Lively's casting became more critical, with fans of the book expressing concern over potential changes to the story. Taylor Swift's involvement in the controversy, which will be explored in detail in a later chapter, added fuel to the fire, as her rumored reluctance to support Lively signaled that something was wrong. By the time filming neared completion, tensions had reached a boiling point. Lively's insistence on creative control had not only strained her relationship with the director and author, but it had also set the stage for a public fallout that would soon explode in the tabloids. What's next? The brewing storm surrounding It Ends With Us was about to spill over into public view. In Chapter 4, we'll dive into the moment when the controversy broke into mainstream media, the response from Hollywood insiders, and how Taylor Swift's surprising stance played a crucial role in shaping public opinion. Chapter 4, the public fallout. When the controversy went mainstream. By the time It Ends With Us wrapped filming, the behind-the-scenes drama had already begun leaking into Hollywood circles. But it wasn't until key figures, especially Taylor Swift, became indirectly involved that the situation exploded into mainstream media. In this chapter, we'll explore how the controversy made headlines, the response from industry insiders, and the growing divide between Blake Lively and the people she worked with. The first major leak. Hollywood insiders speak out. In late 2024, reports started surfacing that there were serious creative differences behind the making of It Ends With Us. Initially, these were just whispers, vague mentions in entertainment gossip columns suggesting that Lively had clashed with the director and author. However, as time passed, more concrete allegations emerged. Entertainment reporters began hinting that Blake Lively had overstepped her role as an actress. Sources close to the production claimed that she had attempted to rewrite parts of the script, alter major themes of the movie, and even dictate cinematographic decisions. And named crew members leaked information about on-set frustrations. Some described Lively as difficult to work with and suggested that her creative interference had caused unnecessary delays. Colleen Hoover, the book's author, was rumored to be frustrated with the changes Lively had pushed for, though she remained largely silent publicly at this stage. These leaks didn't name specific sources, but they carried enough weight to spark interest in the Hollywood community. Fans of the book began expressing concern online, questioning whether the adaptation would remain true to the novel. Taylor Swift's alleged involvement, a game changer. What really took this controversy to another level, however, was the unexpected involvement of Taylor Swift. As longtime friends, Blake Lively and Taylor Swift had been seen as close for years. They often vacationed together, supported each other's projects, and Swift had even featured Lively's children's names in her lyrics. Because of this, many assumed that Swift would back Lively no matter what, but things took a turn when rumors emerged that Taylor Swift refused to publicly support Blake Lively during the controversy. It was reported that Swift had been asked to help Lively manage the growing backlash, either through a social media post or a public appearance. Instead, Swift allegedly distanced herself from the situation. She did not defend Lively, and in some cases, sources suggested she actively refused to get involved. Industry insiders claimed that Swift didn't agree with what Lively had done and did not want to attach herself to the controversy. This was a major turning point. Swift, known for her loyal friendships, choosing not to support Lively sent a clear message. Something serious had gone down on that movie set. And even those closest to Lively weren't willing to back her up. The internet immediately took notice. Fans began dissecting Swift's behavior, analyzing whether her actions signaled a rift between the two friends. Some argued that Swift was simply staying out of unnecessary drama, while others believed it was proof that Lively was in the wrong. Reynolds and Blake Lively, relationship tension. As if the backlash surrounding It Ends With Us wasn't enough, reports also started circulating that Blake Lively's marriage to Reynolds was under strain. For years, Lively and Reynolds had been seen as one of Hollywood's strongest couples. However, in early 2025, rumors began swirling that their relationship was hitting a rough patch, coinciding with Lively's ongoing controversy. Paparazzi noticed that Reynolds and Lively were appearing in public less frequently together, while Lively was dealing with the fallout of It Ends With Us. Reynolds was busy with Deadpool and Wolverine, which was set to release in July 2025. He remained silent about the controversy surrounding his wife, further fueling speculation that he wasn't entirely supportive of how she handled the situation. Some reports even suggested that Reynolds was frustrated with the negative attention Lively was bringing to their household, though no official statements were made. While there was no confirmed split, it was clear that Lively's actions on set were having an impact beyond just her career. Hollywood reacts. Growing backlash against Blake Lively as more details surfaced. Hollywood insiders and social media users began voicing their opinions on Lively's actions. The consensus? She had overstepped her boundaries in ways that most actors, no matter how famous, would never attempt. Directors and producers started weighing in, though no one called her out by name. Multiple industry figures made comments about how actors should stay in their lane and let directors and writers do their jobs. Film critics predicted that the controversy could damage Lively's career. While she wasn't being cancelled, many speculated that studios would be hesitant to cast her in future projects if she had a reputation for interfering with production. Social media discussions blew up. The hashtag #StayInYourLaneBlake began trending, with users comparing her actions to actors who tried to control films and ended up ruining them. Some defended Lively, arguing that she was simply passionate about her work and wanted to ensure the film's success. However, the overwhelming response suggested that most people felt she had gone too far. Colleen Hoover's response. The author speaks out as the controversy escalated. The most anticipated response was from Colleen Hoover. The author of It Ends With Us. Up until this point, she had remained silent, avoiding any direct statements about Lively's involvement. But in a carefully worded interview in February 2025, Hoover finally addressed the situation. She did not outright criticize Lively, but she emphasized that the film adaptation was meant to be faithful to the novel, implying that there had been attempts to steer it in another direction. She acknowledged that there were challenges during production, but remained diplomatic about who was responsible. When asked if she was happy with the final film, she hesitated before saying, "I think the story is still there. I hope the audience sees that." This response was seen as subtly calling out Blake Lively without directly throwing her under the bus. Fans picked up on Hoover's hesitation and vague language, interpreting it as confirmation that the actress had indeed tried to take control in ways she shouldn't have. What's next? With the backlash at an all-time high and Taylor Swift's refusal to back her up, Blake Lively was now in full damage control mode. But was it too late? Chapter 5. Blake Lively fights back. Damage control and public response. By early 2025, the backlash against Blake Lively had reached a boiling point. She was being called out for overstepping her role in It Ends With Us. Taylor Swift had seemingly distanced herself, and Hollywood insiders were weighing in on the controversy. Now, it was time for Lively to respond. This chapter explores how she attempted to defend herself, the public's reaction, and whether her efforts helped or hurt her career. Blake Lively's first public response. For weeks, Lively had remained silent, even as social media exploded with criticism and the press dissected her actions. But by mid-February 2025, the pressure to address the situation became too great to ignore. In an exclusive interview with Vanity Fair, Lively finally spoke out. Key takeaways from her response included: she denied trying to take over the movie. Lively claimed that she was simply passionate about the project and had given creative input, as many actors do. She argued that her experience in Hollywood made her input valuable. She pointed out that she had been in the industry for over 2 decades and had worked with some of the best directors, so she felt she had earned the right to contribute ideas. She blamed exaggerated rumors for the backlash. She said that, while there were creative discussions behind the scenes, they were not as dramatic as the media had portrayed them. She expressed disappointment over Taylor Swift's lack of support. Without naming Swift directly, she stated that she was hurt by certain people choosing to remain silent instead of backing her up. While Lively hoped that this interview would clear things up, it had mixed results. Some of her fans defended her, saying she was being unfairly targeted for caring about her work. Others felt that she was dodging responsibility and failing to acknowledge that she had overstepped her role. The Hollywood industry, especially directors and producers, remained skeptical. Did her response help or hurt her image? The Vanity Fair interview was supposed to be a moment of redemption, but it did not have the impact Lively had hoped for. Instead of dying down, the controversy escalated because Lively's attempt to downplay it felt disingenuous to many. The phrase "I was just passionate" became a meme online, with people mocking her for trying to excuse overstepping her job. Some former co-stars remained silent, which further fueled speculation that she was difficult to work with. It was clear that one interview wasn't going to fix the damage. Taylor Swift's camp responds. Not long after Lively's interview, an Anonymous source close to Taylor Swift spoke to People magazine and revealed some shocking details. Swift had known about the drama on set long before it became public. She had advised Lively to step back and focus on acting, warning her that overstepping would cause problems. When the backlash hit, Swift chose not to get involved because she believed Lively had brought it on herself, although Swift herself never made an official statement. This leak was enough to confirm what many had already suspected: their friendship was strained, and Swift was not standing by Lively on this one. Ryan Reynolds breaks his silence while Swift distanced herself. All eyes turned to Ryan Reynolds. Would he defend his wife? Or would he also remain silent? In an awkward red carpet interview for Deadpool and Wolverine, Reynolds was asked about the controversy. His response was neutral but telling. Blake is an incredibly talented actress. She cares deeply about her projects. I think that's all there is to say. His refusal to address the backlash directly made it clear that he wasn't going to fight this battle for her. Some speculated that he was tired of the negative attention, while others believed he simply didn't agree with how Lively handled things. This fueled more rumors that their marriage was under strain. Though no official confirmation was given, behind the scenes fallout, Hollywood takes note. While Lively focused on public damage control, Hollywood executives were making their own assessments. The industry is built on relationships, and Lively's actions had not gone unnoticed. Directors began second-guessing working with her. No one wanted an actor who might try to hijack creative control. Producers worried about the financial risk. If an actress became too controversial, it could impact a film's success. Future projects stalled. Rumor circulated that Lively was quietly dropped from a few upcoming films, though no official statements were made. Even if she didn't face an outright career collapse, the industry was now viewing her differently. The court of public opinion. Did she overstep? By March 2025, the debate was clear-cut. The majority of people, including many who had previously supported Lively, agreed that she had overstepped her boundaries. Chapter 6. The release of It Ends With Us. Success or setback? By the time It Ends With Us hit theaters, the controversy surrounding Blake Lively had already overshadowed the film itself. The question was, would the movie be a success despite the drama, or would Lively's behind-the-scenes interference hurt its performance? This chapter explores the film's release, box office performance, critical reception, and how it impacted Lively's career moving forward. Premiere night. Tension in the air. The red carpet premiere of It Ends With Us was supposed to be a celebration, but instead, it felt more like a damage control event. Blake Lively attended, but she was noticeably tense. She smiled for cameras, but body language experts pointed out how stiff and guarded she seemed. Taylor Swift did not attend. This was a major statement, given her previous close friendship with Lively. Her absence confirmed speculation that their relationship had been strained by the controversy. The director, Justin Baldoni, kept his distance. While he remained professional, he didn't appear warm or enthusiastic toward Lively, reinforcing the belief that her interference had caused serious friction. Ryan Reynolds was there, but he didn't do interviews. He supported his wife publicly, but his silence on the situation spoke volumes. Despite the drama, fans and critics were eager to see whether the film could stand on its own. Box office performance. Did the drama help or hurt? When opening weekend numbers rolled in, the results were mixed. It Ends With Us debuted at number 8 at the box office, earning $16 million in its first weekend. This was a decent opening for a mid-budget romance drama, but it wasn't a blockbuster hit. The film saw a steep drop in ticket sales by the second weekend, suggesting that audience interest was fading fast. Some curiosity-driven viewers admitted they watched just to see what all the drama was about, but they didn't necessarily leave satisfied. By the end of its theatrical run, the movie barely broke even, which meant that it wasn't a total failure, but it also wasn't the major success the studio had hoped for. Critical reception. Was the movie any good? Reviews for It Ends With Us were lukewarm at best. Rotten Tomatoes score, 48% from critics, 62% from audiences. Metacritic score, 50 to 100. IMDb rating, 6.1. 10. What critics said. Praised. Justin Baldoni's direction was noted as visually appealing. Brandon Glener's performance as Raoul was called one of the strongest aspects of the film. The source material's emotional weight still resonated with fans of the book. Criticized. Blake Lively's performance was called overacted and miscast. Some felt she didn't capture the essence of Lily Bloom. The script was uneven and disjointed, likely due to the behind-the-scenes struggles. Some moments in the film felt forced or unnatural, leading critics to speculate that Lively's creative interference may have played a role in awkward pacing. One notable review from The Hollywood Reporter summed it up. "There's a good movie buried somewhere and it ends with us, but it's weighed down by inconsistent performances and an identity crisis likely a result of too many conflicting creative voices behind the scenes." This criticism aligned with what many suspected. Lively's attempt to control aspects of the film negatively impacted the final product. Audience reaction, social media chatter while critics were divided. General audiences had plenty to say, especially on social media. Memes circulated mocking Blake Lively's performance. Many users joked about her over-the-top expressions and emotional scenes. People speculated about how much better the movie could have been if Lively had just focused on acting instead of trying to direct. Book fans were disappointed. Some claimed that the film butchered the novel's deeper themes. Some defended Lively, arguing that she was being unfairly targeted, despite a dedicated fan base. The movie failed to generate lasting buzz. How the industry reacted. Fallout in Hollywood. The biggest impact of It Ends With Us wasn't on the audience, it was on Blake Lively's career. Directors and producers now viewed her as difficult. Many in the industry prefer actors who follow direction and respect creative leadership. Her ability to secure lead roles was now uncertain. While she had star power, Hollywood decision-makers had to weigh whether she was worth the risk. Other actors subtly distanced themselves. No one openly spoke against her, but the lack of support from high-profile friends was noticeable. One producer, speaking anonymously to Variety, summed it up: "No one wants an actor who acts like a director. That's not how movies work." This confirmed the worst fears for Lively. Her reputation had taken a serious hit. Was Blake Lively's career damaged for good? At this point, the controversy had played out in full. The question now was, could Lively recover, or was this the beginning of a decline? Reasons she could bounce back: she still had loyal fans and a recognizable name. Hollywood loves a comeback story. If she played her cards right, she could repair her image. She could take a break from acting and return when the controversy faded. Reasons her career could decline: studios might hesitate to cast her in major roles. Without Taylor Swift's support, she lost a major cultural advantage. If she doubled down instead of taking accountability, she could damage her reputation further. The next steps Lively took would determine whether she recovered or faded into the background of Hollywood. What's next? With the movie released and her reputation in question, the next chapter will focus on Blake Lively's attempts to move forward. Would she accept responsibility or continue defending herself? The state of her marriage with Ryan Reynolds. Was the controversy affecting their personal life the industry's final verdict? Would Hollywood give her another chance? Or was her leading lady era over? Chapter 7. Blake Lively's next move. Damage control or denial. With It Ends With Us out in the world and the controversy fully exposed, Blake Lively had to decide what to do next. Would she acknowledge her mistakes and attempt to mend her reputation, or would she double down and refuse to take responsibility? This chapter explores Lively's response, how Hollywood reacted, the status of her marriage to Ryan Reynolds, and whether she had a path forward in the industry. Blake Lively breaks her silence, a strategic response. For weeks after the film's release, Lively remained noticeably quiet. She skipped interviews, avoided red carpets, and kept a low profile on social media. However, silence only fueled speculation. Then, in an exclusive interview with Vogue, she finally addressed the controversy. Her statements were carefully worded. "I care deeply about every project I'm a part of. I want to bring my best to the table, and sometimes that means being very hands-on. I don't believe passion is a flaw, but I do understand that filmmaking is a collaborative effort, and I've learned a lot from this experience." Key takeaways from her response: she didn't explicitly apologize but acknowledged the importance of collaboration. She painted herself as passionate rather than controlling. She avoided blame and didn't address the reported conflicts with the director or producers. She emphasized growth, suggesting she had learned from the situation. This response was calculated. Instead of admitting wrongdoing, she reframed the issue as a misunderstanding about her dedication to her craft. Hollywood's reaction: was the industry buying it? Lively's "I'm just passionate" approach worked for some fans, but within the industry, executives and filmmakers weren't convinced. Some directors and producers subtly distanced themselves. A source at Warner Brothers reportedly told The Hollywood Reporter, "No one wants to work with someone who thinks they can override the director. That's just not how it works." Studios hesitated to cast her in major roles. While she wasn't blacklisted, she was no longer a first-choice actress for big-budget projects. A few defenders in Hollywood spoke out, claiming that Lively was being unfairly targeted. However, none of them were top-tier directors or producers. The reality was clear: Lively's reputation had taken a serious hit, and she was no longer seen as an easy choice for leading roles. Ryan Reynolds cracks in the marriage. As Blake Lively's public image suffered, many fans started noticing a shift in her relationship with Ryan Reynolds. The couple had always been known for their playful social media banter, but in the months following the controversy, their online interactions noticeably declined. Reynolds was silent on the issue while he showed up at the Ends With Us premiere. He avoided interviews and made no public statements defending Lively. Rumors circulated that Reynolds was exhausted by the situation. Sources close to the couple suggested that he was trying to avoid being dragged into the drama. Was their marriage in trouble? Neither confirmed nor denied the speculation, but insiders suggested that the controversy had caused tension. Taylor Swift, a silent statement. One of the biggest questions surrounding the situation was Taylor Swift's response. Before the controversy, Swift and Lively were close friends. They vacationed together. Their kids had playdates, and Lively even directed a music video for Swift. Swift's silence spoke volumes. She never publicly addressed the controversy, but she noticeably kept her distance. Fans noticed that Lively and Reynolds weren't seen at Swift's recent events. They didn't attend her Eras Tour afterparties or her big industry gatherings. While there was no official falling out, the lack of support from Swift suggested that she wasn't siding with Lively. Given Swift's influence, this only worsened Lively's standing in Hollywood. What projects did Lively have left? With It Ends With Us underperforming and her reputation damaged, the next question was, would Blake Lively still get roles? Her next project, the making of a romantic dramedy co-starring Diane Keaton, was still set for release. But there were concerns about how it would be received. She was still attached to a spy thriller, Proxy, but industry insiders speculated that the film's production could be delayed or even canceled. Brand endorsements slowed down. Lively had always been a fashion darling, but luxury brands like Chanel and L'Oreal were noticeably quiet about collaborations. She wasn't completely canceled, but she was no longer a Hollywood darling. Could Blake Lively make a comeback? At this point, Blake Lively was at a crossroads. She had a few options: take a break from acting and return later. Some actors recover by stepping away for a while and then returning with a fresh image. Take full accountability. If she publicly admitted fault and showed growth, she could repair her reputation. The question was, had she done permanent damage to her career, or was there a way back? Hollywood's quiet blacklisting. The doors start to close. While Lively wasn't explicitly canceled, her status in Hollywood had undeniably shifted. She was no longer the go-to actress for major roles. Before the controversy, Lively had been seen as a bankable star, with projects like A Simple Favor and The Shallows proving she could carry a film. Studios hesitated to take a risk on her. Even though she still had name recognition, producers were wary of bringing on an actress who had clashed with a director and disrupted production. Directors wanted control, not competition. Many in the industry viewed what happened on It Ends With Us as a warning sign. No one wanted to deal with an actress who might try to hijack creative decisions. Even though Lively had publicly framed herself as just passionate, the damage was done. Did audiences turn against her? Hollywood can forgive a lot if audiences still love a star. But how did the public feel about Blake Lively after the controversy? Her core fan base remained supportive. Many longtime fans, especially those who had followed her since Gossip Girl, defended her, arguing that she was simply misunderstood. General audiences, however, were more skeptical. Many casual moviegoers viewed her as someone who had overstepped her role and hurt a film that already had enough challenges. The film's mixed reception didn't help, since It Ends With Us wasn't a massive success. Lively didn't have a box office hit to overshadow the controversy. This left her in an awkward position. Her career wasn't over, but it also wasn't thriving. Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, more strain on the marriage. At the same time, speculation about Lively's marriage to Ryan Reynolds intensified. Their public interactions had become noticeably different. While they used to joke with each other on social media, their online presence as a couple had cooled. Reynolds avoided commenting on the controversy. Even when promoting Deadpool and Wolverine, he sidestepped questions about Lively's situation. Rumors of tension grew. Several entertainment outlets speculated that Reynolds was frustrated with how Lively's behavior had affected their public image. While there was no confirmation of marital issues, it was clear that the situation had put stress on their relationship. Shifting industry relationships. Who stood by her? One of the biggest consequences of Hollywood controversy is how it affects an actor's industry. Relationships. Taylor Swift remained silent. While Swift and Lively had been close before, There was no public sign of support from Swift. Some saw this as an intentional decision to distance herself. Anna Kendrick subtly threw shade. In an interview months later, Kendrick made a comment about knowing when to stay in your lane on set, which many assume was directed at Lively. Certain directors and producers started avoiding her. While she wasn't publicly shunned, she was no longer attached to high-profile projects, with some of Hollywood's power players stepping away. Lively's career options became more limited. What projects were still available to her? Despite the backlash, Lively still had a few options left: independent films and lower-budget projects. If major studios were hesitant, she could pivot to indie films, where creative risks were more accepted. Streaming roles, platforms like Netflix and Amazon were still open to working with big names, even if they had controversy attached to them. Behind-the-scenes work. Given her desire for creative control, some speculated that Lively might shift toward directing or producing instead of acting. She still had a career, but it wasn't what it used to be. Did Blake Lively learn from the experience? After months of fallout, had Lively shown any real growth or change? Her public statements remain carefully worded. She never fully admitted wrongdoing but emphasized that she had learned a lot from the experience. She was more cautious in new projects. Reports suggested that on her next film, The Making of, she was noticeably less involved in behind-the-scenes decisions. She tried to rebuild her image. Over time, Lively shifted her public focus toward fashion, family, and philanthropic work, hoping to reshape the narrative. Whether audiences fully forgave her or not, she was making strategic moves to recover. Final thought: can she fully rebound? Blake Lively's future remained uncertain. She still had opportunities, but her reputation had been permanently altered. The biggest question was, would Hollywood eventually give her a second chance, or would she always be remembered for overstepping her boundaries?